One of the biggest grievances from artists who buy beats is that they cannot get a hold of the beat seller to ask questions or upgrade the license or get clarity about the process.
I started making beats because I loved making beats, not because I wanted to be a marketing professional and not because I wanted to read contracts. But when I actually got into the music business and I realized how necessary it was for me to learn what was in my contracts, what was necessary for me to build a brand, how to operate and run a small business, which is exactly what we as producers are doing. I did the best I could and tried to figure it out. I understand that most producers don't want to do all of this. We just want to make music. We don't want to be on social media. Most of us don't want to learn about lead generation and retargeting and all that. And I'll tell you something that I really didn't figure out until recently. It's another thing that I didn't want to do. Customer service. I didn't want to do customer service. The same way I was holding myself back by not wanting to put beats on the internet, the same way I was holding myself back by not wanting to learn ads platforms and start running ads to promote my music, I was holding myself back by being stubborn and hard-headed about delivering the best customer service experience to the recording artists that keep my business running. So, in the producer community, we speak freely about a lot of negative interactions we have with customers, with each other, with sales platforms, with e-commerce platforms. We're frustrated because the recording artists that we're trying to sell our beats to and trying to do business with sometimes don't understand how to do proper business, sometimes don't communicate properly, sometimes don't respect us, or at least we feel as though they're not respecting us. We're focused on the negative, and there are a lot of us making beats. So if we want to stand out, unfortunately, we're going to have to do a lot of things that we don't want to do. The producer who understands marketing and branding is probably going to do better than the one that doesn't. It's not what they wanted to do, it's just what they had to do, and they did it. Customer service is the same way, and we as producers really have to stop focusing on the negative experiences we've had with rappers, focus on the positive experiences we've had with rappers, track those, and be the best we can at communicating, at explaining our licenses, at providing value in general so that we stand out from the next producer. If someone has a bad experience with you, a customer has a bad experience with you just because you're being stubborn and you don't want to go above and beyond, they're going to start working with a producer who does. So I wanted to talk to some top selling producers, actually a producer and a songwriter, and I'm sure you've heard of them, Dreamlife and Breana Marin. I wanted to talk to them about their strategies for providing customer service, for explaining licenses, for dealing with the whole exclusive versus non-exclusive conversation that we all dread, and for how they deal with customer service under pressure. If someone's angry, if someone's being disrespectful or rude. Got a chance to do it at the 2020 Beatstars Summit, powered by MusicEntrepreneurClub.com. You can check out the seminar in its entirety at Beatstars Twitch page. So here it is, customer service for producers in the online leasing business.
One of the biggest grievances from artists who buy beats is that they cannot get a hold of the beat seller to ask questions or upgrade the license or get clarity about the process. How do you make yourselves available to answer questions or concerns from your customers?
So basically, I try to check my email, at least once a day in the morning, get through the emails I need to get through. And then I am looking at my emails through the day, because sometimes if people want to upgrade their license, like, you need to upgrade their license ASAP, because that's money coming in the door. The minute that you go, oh no, I'll get back to this guy 4 hours later, and you're like, hey, yeah, it's $50 to upgrade. He may not even reply. So you want to try to get the people that are trying to offer you, certain deals to upgrade their package. You want to make sure that you hit them straight away. I would say that's the rule. Get to the money first.
Sometimes for me, it's hard to get to everything, because I feel like I have a lot of tasks. I'm sure, like, as we all do. So I did actually bring on help. And then I've also created these forms with this website called Typeform, where you can automate a lot of a lot of questions that you get all the time. So my most frequently asked questions, I've created a form.
Cheat code.
Yeah. So, and then it also has like payment options and like different things. So that's been a big help. And then also, scouring my emails at a specific time in the day, weekly, normally for me.
You could probably do something like that with the ManyChat app, right? That Beatstars has integrated. I'm pretty sure there's a way to automate. The most commonly asked questions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is, but I think it's via Facebook chat. I think so. You send them to Facebook chat. That's actually a really good way to do it as well. If you can get that set up correctly and have like an FAQ like on the Facebook chat, I've seen a few producers that have that. It's obviously quite a lot of work to set up, but I mean that's a really good customer service.
Saver for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean it's good service.
Yeah,
because that's the thing, because and I don't know if either of you have found a balance between being available all the time for customer service and living your own lives. Okay, so you're shaking your head. I'm with you. You figured it out.
Figuring out how to live my balance, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me, I had to create boundaries and time frames. So it's like after a specific time, I don't check the email. I actually don't even check emails every day. It's like specific days of the week. And then I try to automate. Like automation is my favorite thing on the planet. So if it could be automated, I figure out how to automate it. I have a lot of autoresponders that already have links and stuff. Because like for me, I mostly get asked, can you do a music video? Can I get an exclusive? You know what I mean? It's like the same few questions. So it's like I'll have autoresponders with all of those answers. And a lot of times it eliminates things for me. So that's been a big help, is just forcing myself to create the boundaries. Because otherwise I feel like it could just take over your whole life.
Oh, it really can. And sometimes also if it's a particularly busy day, like, for some reason we have days of the months where, things are particularly busy, and you can literally get like a crazy amount of emails. And like, if you were going to sit and respond to every single email that came in,
it take hours.
You'd literally spend your whole day doing it. So I think like having a designated time of the day where you check emails, like you could say 8 a.m., 12, at lunch, and then 6 p.m. I think that would be a pretty good balance. I don't have the discipline to pull that off yet, but I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other top concerns that your customers come at you with?
Okay, I got a good one. Basically, I get this a lot in terms of people wanting to register. The correct way to register things on the back end with their PRS, with their Performing Rights Society. So I have like a copy and paste email that I have in my Gmail drafts, where it's basically my information. So that's one I get a couple of times a day. Hey, I'm trying to register the track. Can you send me your full name and your numbers? So that's one I get a lot, for sure.
I also get people get confused about like what license is best for them, or like what they'll be able to do with that license. So same thing. I have like a little copy paste situation. Yeah. And then I also get asked, is it better to have an exclusive or to get an unlimited license? And I typically recommend the unlimited license.
Yeah, it's a lot of exclusive offers for stuff in the catalog that, where the person isn't quite sure of what the price is. So people kind of throw in numbers at you all day. So I have a copy and paste for that as well. I think the best way, honestly, is just to like look at your FAQ and literally copy and paste your FAQ into Gmail. And then, the people that don't read your FAQ and send you emails that are based on that, you can just send it out. It takes 5 seconds. So I think that's definitely been a lifesaver for me in terms of time.
So today, across multiple sessions, and I hope everyone who's watching sticks around for the upcoming sessions, but throughout the day, we're going to talk about that E word a lot, the exclusive word, because that's a pretty major concern, maybe equally a big concern to us selling our music and the consumers who are licensing it. How do you handle exclusives? What's your process for exclusive sales? Some producers don't do it all. Some producers only sell exclusive licenses. There's just a lot of confusion on both sides of the fence.
Okay. For me, I try to be dynamic. So my approach depends a lot on the beat. Is the beat a top seller in my lease catalog? Because if it is, then it would make no sense for me to sell the exclusive. B, what do I know about the artist? Is the artist going to make a good song out of this? And are they going to release it in a way that I would feel happy with? So that's a big one for me, because I've had people buy exclusives to beats that I really liked before, and then I've never heard the song. I've followed up and they never even recorded the song. They dropped $800 and it never came out. That kind of sucks. So, I kind of want to avoid that. And then thirdly, for beats that are like 400 beats down in my catalog, I'm probably going to want to sell the rights to those beats and, take them off the market forever, take them off YouTube, SoundCloud, take them away from the market so that one person can do their thing with it. Obviously claim the monetization on YouTube and do a few more things that they wouldn't be able to do with a lease beat, right? So it's kind of getting the balance. But the top selling beats in my lease catalog, I'm just not that interested in selling the exclusive rights to.
Yeah, I would say majority of the time my answer is no for exclusives, just because I find it more lucrative to leave them up as they are. And when I do get approached, even if it's like, an artist that would probably do substantially well with it, I try to think of terms that benefit both of us. Like, you can take the song for now and record, do what you're going to do, decide if you're going to release it. Cause like you were saying, oftentimes like they won't even release the song, plans change. They're still human, I guess. So, yeah, you can take the song for now. And when we know for sure you're going to press go, we'll approach it then and take it down.
That's actually a really good point as well. And I want to expand on that. Like, a lot of the time, and obviously it's not a producer's job to tell an artist like what's best for them, right? But based on my experience, I honestly think initially leasing a beat that's already been on the market, it could be a couple of months or a couple of years, it's been on the market, right? So if you're really interested in that beat, lease it, make a song, make a video, see where that goes, see if you get any traction off that song, right? If you start getting some real traction, then get back to me. I'll look at that. And then we can work out a price. If you want to take it off the market, let's make it happen. But I don't think, having a folder of bulk beats on your computer that you bought, exclusive rights to, that you might record to one day is financially a good approach for an artist. You should spend that money on marketing, honestly. Lease beats, the money that you save leasing beats, spend it on marketing, spend it on dope visuals, branding. And then when you start to blow up, then you can start buying the exclusives to all the beats that you've leased if they're still on the market. Of course, it's a dynamic process. So that's what I try to recommend people, and I have conversations with people in my email about this, like, dude, no doubt the song's going to be dope, but lease it first and then let's see how it does and talk later.
Yeah. How do you approach those situations so that you're communicating effectively and the artist doesn't feel like they're damn.
I was trying to make it quiet and I made it louder.
I guess, Breana, if someone hits you up with some tricky questions, like, what's an effective way that you communicate with artists without sort of, trying to, I guess, belittle them or, kind of putting them onto game without, telling them what to do?
Well, the first thing I normally do is I used to use the Beatstars Pro page, but I made a custom website and I've tried to include as much informative information as possible, like a good breakdown of the licenses, obviously like my frequently asked questions. Something I stole from your website was showing them how to actually purchase the track and stuff like that. So that's like my first form of communication is being very informative on, the website or the Beat store, wherever they are actually shopping, as well as just chatting and stuff like that on my Instagram and in my direct messages. I also send out email blasts, and when I'm speaking to them directly, I try to just talk to them honestly like I'm talking to a friend who's just asking a question. I try to be kind, because at the end of it, I want you to trust me and have like a positive exchange and be more likely to purchase every time I release something, whether it's a kit or a hook or a song. So I do enjoy having that exchange. So I try to just be kind and talk like I'm talking to a friend, and speak as if, even if they know everything, I still try to speak as if they don't know, but in a kind manner.
Okay. All right. So like, let's say someone hits you up and they're kind of angry about, something, maybe they didn't get the file that they ordered on time, or it went to the wrong address. Like, how do you sort of deal with angry clients? Because you obviously get them. I get a bunch of them, right? How do you, if you're having a bad day, how do you not react in a bad way to the person that's kind of going at you? What's your approach with that?
If I'm having a bad day and I'm already upset, or they've made me upset, I actually don't answer. Until I'm in a better mindset.
Let it breathe. You let it breathe.
Oh yeah, because I tend to say crazy stuff. Like if I'm, like we don't want that. So I'll take a second, and then the next thing I do, I don't know if you've ever done this, but this has worked really well for me. I'll actually type a whole message with what I really want to say, and really feel like I'm going to send it. Like I'll just sit there and say everything I want to say, and then I will not send it. I will delete that version, because that's a no. And I take all of the points that I made in that message, and I'll respond kindly with it. Because oftentimes, I would say when someone is upset, most of the times it's something that I can understand. So I do also say that in the message, like I understand.
You can relate to it, right?
Yeah. I noticed when I started saying things like I understand, and like, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. Sometimes people just want to feel like they are
that you care, right? That someone on the other end of the line actually cares about what I'm going through.
Yeah, and they're going to do something to take care of it. So I find that gets you much further than sending off an angry message. So that's how I approach it. How do you approach it?
Well, when it's people that are particularly angry, I definitely take a chill pill myself. I'd kind of take a deep breath, and I don't type out what I really want to say. I don't do all that, but I have typed out replies and then read them through and gone, no man, that's way too aggressive. Delete. Do you know what? I'm going to be over the top. I don't know if kind is the word, but I guess like I just want to show a professional level of customer service here, right? So at the end of the day, we're selling a product. People are paying good, hard-earned money for the product, and things happen in the process. Things go missing. They're not able to download beats. It happens a lot, right? So you got to bear in mind too. I mean, they're spending their money on this, so you can kind of see where they're coming from. So once I kind of try to think in their shoes, in their perspective, it helps me break down the process. I think Payne's back now.
Hi.
Thanks for carrying that on. I thought I was concerned because there's a blackout in New York, and then there's an earthquake in Breana's house. But then I don't know what, I can't explain it. So sorry about that.
Hey, where have the plaques gone?
They disappeared. The Matrix got me. I switched from one computer to the other just to see if that would work, and I guess it did. So I don't know if that means my computer's dead forever or what, but what are you guys talking about? Beats and stuff?
Just angry customers, Payne, and I know you get your share as well. How do you deal with angry customers?
It's tough, man. I think if I'm being honest, the old me probably just cusses people out, and then once I'm bored with the conversation, I just stop. But that was years ago. Now I just kind of apologize for whatever inconvenience they had. But if it's an unreasonable request, I mean, I've had people mad at me because of a free beat, or I guess I've had this conversation before where I've encouraged producers to change their perspective a little. Because I think, and I don't know if the two of you went through this, but we're artists at the end of the day, and artists have this personal connection to their art and their process. And so for me, I used to feel really personal about the business part too. So if someone said, I need this changed, or I need you to remove this tag or whatever, I would have a kind of emotional response to that. And I've stopped doing that, but I hear from some producers that they're still stuck on this this personalization of their music to the point where they might just ignore a request from an artist to change something. And I think, we're here because people like our art enough to pay for it. So the least we could do is try to meet our customers halfway.
Yeah, I think a good way to do that, and I've had it often where someone, will say, hey, Dreamlife, can I pay you something extra to do some drops, et cetera, et cetera. It's not something I do. I wish I had time in the day to do that. So sometimes what I'll do is, look, hey, dude, I can't do these drops for you, but you know what? Thanks for being a customer. Here are the stems. You could probably get the engineer that you're recording with to do that. He could probably do that pretty easily. So I try to kind of not just say no. I try to have like a plan B for them, which obviously involves me actually sending them something, but I never try to just say no and sort of, shut the door on that.
Yeah. So I actually went online on Twitter and asked, because I have a lot of recording artists who follow me, and I asked them what their biggest concerns were with leasing beats online, because it's not a perspective that I usually get to hear. So it's interesting. I looked at all of the responses and kind of boiled it down to a top 5 list. And number 1 is just not replying. So not hearing back from the producer or the beat store that they're purchasing a license from or have questions about. We've already talked about that. Number 2 was really interesting. This is a really big concern of recording artists, that the producers they license the beat from do not promote or market the song once it's done. What are your initial thoughts on that?
I'll let you start on that one, Breana.
I actually get that a lot. People ask if I'll post it or do any kind of like marketing push. I think it's tough just because I think on our side, there's so many people who are licensing from us that if we literally promoted every single person, I don't know, that would get kind of weird. And then also, I don't love everything that everybody does. Like in all honesty, it's like everything isn't good. Like every now and again, there's that one like amazing version or rendition of it that maybe out of the kindness of my heart, I'm like, wow, like look at this video, look at this. This is incredible. But yeah, I think that if you're already an independent recording artist and you're leasing a beat, then you should be having money put off to the side for your own marketing, or some type of strategy that you've figured out on your own. And I think that leasing the beat or leasing the beat with hook is just a part of your strategy. It's not necessarily something we're signing on to. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be a whole different business if we were licensing beats and then also offering you promotion if we had some surefire way to get you promoted. But I just feel like this is just it's a small part of your plan to release music. This isn't we're not your marketing plan, Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I'd say this as well. Like I would not really want to market an artist that hasn't maximized the potential of the song that they're trying to ask me to market. And I mean that. And when I say that, I mean, is there a video for it? Is the video super dope? Does it look good? And obviously before that, is the song good? And then 3, like how much of these guys actually tried to market the song themselves? because I get a lot of requests for that. And I think it's a valid request, you know, to ask a producer that's produced a track to kind of get behind the track. I think that's fine. But I want to see if you've got behind the track. You know, how much have you pushed this? Because if you haven't pushed this as much as I would push it for you, then I'm not going to get involved. I feel like you've got a long way to go before I get involved. So I've got examples in my catalog of stuff I've done where literally the artist has produced an amazing song. He's made an amazing song, an amazing video. He's got like a couple of 100,000 streams. And then he's gone, hey, Dreamlife, check out this track you produced. It's doing really well. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to get behind this as well, because you got behind yourself and you did a really good job here. And I want to be involved, you know? So that's the kind of way I look at it. Like, I'd have no problem promoting artists that I work with, but I want to see them promote themselves in the right way before that.
I'll just add that on my end, when I look at my own potential to market music, I'm not impressed by it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
I don't think any, and you know, all of us are, you know, well, I'll speak for the two of you. The two of you are amazing artists. I don't look at you as having this immense amount of social media marketing potential where you can just, you know, retweet something or post something to your timeline and all of a sudden that really helps somebody out. So for me, I guess I try to, if an artist does ask, I'll just say, look, this is my recommendation for marketing. I don't personally feel like it would be right for me to claim that I can help market your record anyway. I focus 99.9% of my attention on making beats as well as I can. And the marketing side is just not something that I have time to master. You know what I mean? Because if I did, maybe I'd be running a label instead of
right. And that's something I say too. It's like, dude, like I have enough problems like marketing my own music. Like I'm trying to market my own music here as well. Like, and that's not easy. So, you know, if I was suddenly going to start marketing artist music as well, I mean, it would get pretty rough pretty quick. And that's just being realistic.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is I will share resources sometimes and just say, look, this is how I built my business. I use this kind of ad. Here's a video that explains how to do that. You know, and for me, that's the difference between giving someone a very small fish, and giving them an instruction manual on how to actually fish. So number 3, and this is a big one. And this is one that I personally am on the recording artist side for. This is the top number 3 complaint from recording artists who license beats: when the producer doesn't disclose a sample.
Yeah, that would make me mad.
I mean, let me ask you, because you know probably how I feel about this, but like, when an artist says doesn't disclose the sample, does that mean when someone buys a beat off us, we have to tell them, hey, this beat has a sample every time they buy a beat with a sample? Or do they follow up with us and then we tell them, or we don't tell them? You know, from what perspective?
I think, like, going back to what we were talking about earlier, when I was saying, like, you know, the first level of communication is just being informative on your website. So it's like, if I'm shopping on the store, I would want to know that I'm buying something that you don't 100% really own. Just because I do know a lot of the artists who are licensing, some of them are doing TV stuff, you know, and that type of thing gets really weird with samples. Like, I've had really cool songs that we're going to do like something big on TV, and then we found out there was a sample and we had to take the whole song off. And then, you know how sometimes you producers will be like, the feeling isn't the same once you take the sample out, and, you know, you can't like recreate it or whatever. So yeah, I would want to know right off the bat that it's not 100% like in the clear, and I could just run with it and do what I need to do with it.
So what would you say is a good solution for that? I mean, I know for me, if an artist reaches out, I mean, obviously I have experience selling sample-based beats to major labels, and there's always a conversation about whether or not that beat contains a sample. It's not necessarily built into the process. It's something that is incumbent on the humans involved in the transaction to specify. Obviously, there are ways to let people know if you're using any kind of third-party material. Producers should obviously do that. What about the artists who are interested in knowing whether or not that is the case?
You mean like how should you communicate it?
I guess what would be the best way? What would be the ideal way for you?
I mean, I think it also just depends on the customer. I'm the type of customer that, like, if I went to your website and you wrote something out, like if you had information on the track, I would go read it. And if you wrote, like, you know how on Beatstars there's that option, there's just like a description kind of box. Even if there it was just like, you know, typically I'll put like produced by DJ Payne 1 and written by who to blah, blah, blah. If at the bottom there was like another thing that just was like, okay, this contains this, 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 and this. So if you're going to use it for this, that's great. But if you want to use it for this, you probably need to contact me, or, you know what I mean? Like something like that. Or if it's something where I would say, probably if you're buying the unlimited license, you need to know there is a sample. Cause I feel like typically if you're doing the unlimited license, you have bigger plans for the song. So even if in the zip there was a note, you know how when you download a kit and there's like a little readme section. So if in the zip there was a note that's just like, this contains samples, you know, just something.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I think this is a really important message to the producers out there. The term sample is problematic. But let's say we're talking about a sample library that you downloaded or something or purchased. There should be clear terms in that library about what you can and can't do. So oftentimes, I think in the vast majority of cases, you can license that beat to your heart's content on a platform like Beatstars. But if you're licensing it for TV and you're getting, you know, a big sync check from that, or if you're selling it to a major label, you have to negotiate with the creator of that sample. So keep that in mind, because when you license that beat to an artist, they might not be aware of that.
Right. And I think to sort of expand on that too, there's different types of samples here. You know, a sample that's from the 70s by the Dells is not the same as a sample that DJ Payne 1 made a couple of months ago. Like the clearance process is completely different. There's a lot of really good sample makers and producers out here that will clear a sample with no problems at all. You know, obviously there will be a negotiation, as you mentioned, in terms of, you know, a percentage of, you know, the record, which I think is totally fair. But it's not a complicated process to clear these samples. Whereas, you know, if you were going to sample a Michael Jackson record from the 80s, you probably have some problems.
Those are the samples I would want to know about. Like, I wouldn't care so much about the small ones, but the ones that it's like, we have to talk to the Michael Jackson estate to like get the song cleared. You know, like that's something I would want to know.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, maybe don't sell a beat that sampled Michael Jackson.
Probably not a good idea.
So number 4, not understanding lease restrictions. And that's another conversation. But as sellers, how did you get to the point where you're able to communicate what your licensing terms are to your customers who have questions about them?
You want me to take it?
Yeah.
I think honestly something that's been a big help is the blank form being downloadable on the pro pages and stuff like that. So that's actually helped a lot. I feel like majority of the time I actually don't get a lot of questions in comparison to everything else about the specific licenses, unless it's somebody who is like signed or has been like in the industry and like really wants to know all the ins and outs, which it isn't actually very often. I feel like most of the time it's people who are like really, really independent or really new into the music industry. So I don't actually really get that many questions about the actual licenses. But when I do, I just make sure that I know the numbers and things that I've actually set on my specific licenses, then I'll just be very clear about it and try to speak in layman's terms, because I don't know, as a customer, I wouldn't want someone explaining something in like the most difficult language possible. So I just try to break it down as easily as I can. And I also recommend that they get an attorney to look at it as well, because there's things that are just above my pay grade sometimes to explain.
Right. And I think like it's super important to have this information on your main website in plain view in the simplest terms possible. I think that's like the magic bullet with this, and then if that doesn't work, then under the terms on your Beat site, under that, an FAQ that could, answer the, frequently asked questions about these terms. And then under that, a contact form. If you've still got questions, hit me up and I'll try to break this down for you a bit more. I think one of the main questions I get in terms of licensing terms is, if I buy a standard lease now, can I upgrade it later?
Yeah.
I think that's the main, because people, I think people are being sensible that they're not sure how well the song's going to do. So they're kind of trying to gauge, can I buy a standard lease, see how the song does, and then upgrade it to an unlimited lease if this goes well, which I think is a great approach to this. So I let everyone know, yeah, absolutely, you can just pay the difference to upgrade. But that also might be really good information to have on your site, which I don't have, is, if you go with a certain lease type, if you want to upgrade later, we can make that happen.
Yeah. I like that. Flexible leasing.
So what would you say is the one thing you would like beat buyers to know before stepping into the online beat marketplace and making a purchase?
Good question. A lot of my concerns with, when I'm dealing with someone that isn't familiar with the landscape of this is, a lot of people are very apprehensive in buying beats that other artists have potentially recorded to, so navigating that conversation with someone who doesn't understand it can be very tricky sometimes. And I think sometimes artists think that, a couple of hundred people have leased this beat, so therefore this beat is going to be all over the internet. But the truth is the internet is a lot bigger than that. It will be very rare that you're going to hear the same song, the same beat twice, if I'm honest with you. So it's kind of talking to people and kind of telling people, look, these are lease beats, and the reason that the ticket is a lot smaller than it would be for a custom exclusive beat is because this is a non-exclusive. We're pricing it, to reflect that, it's $30-$40 because this is a non-exclusive, right? So I think it's important to explain to people that we can go the custom exclusive route if you want, but it's going to cost $1,000. If you want to go that route and you want to have a beat that's one of one and you've got the budget to do that, I'm going to give you the best beat that I can cook up. But until you're working at a level where you have that budget in place, I think it's important to understand that leasing is actually a really good way to get your name up at a budget-friendly price that will allow you to have money left over for marketing. So I'd say that's my main sort of, when I start working with someone, a new client, that's kind of my main conversation with them, to kind of be realistic with what beat leasing is. It's not an answer to the question of I want to blow up. It's just a really good way for artists to get sort of on the come up. Yeah.
I 100% agree with everything you just said. I think it's cost effective. And I think that if you kind of change your mindset to, instead of spending all your money on a custom track and spending a smaller amount of money on, I don't know, maybe like 5 lease songs, that's a whole EP. Say you get, I don't know, the $30 beats for like 5 songs. That's really a great price. And then spending all the rest of your money on marketing and figuring out a strategy to get your name out there, or even just being able to just release content. If you're not going to, focus on the marketing and stuff like that, I feel like it's more cost effective just to have more content. If you want to take like a rest approach and release.
That's like super key what you just said, in my opinion. Like leasing beats, like the way that I see that the music landscape is going is it's like, now it's like content, right? The people that are dropping the most good tracks consistently are the guys that are winning right now. There's a few exceptions, a Kendrick can drop a joint every 3 years and it's the best shit ever and it blows up. But it's an exception to the rule
as well. Like, he is who he is,
right? But then I think for an artist coming up, if I was going to start rapping today, I would be trying to drop, at least a song a week, and that wouldn't be possible unless you had a crazy budget. That wouldn't be possible buying custom exclusives. It's just not realistic, and especially not with the marketing. So the lease market allows you to do the content thing whilst keeping your costs down. And I think it's a no-brainer for artists that are trying to come up in the current digital music landscape.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we have 15 minutes left on the clock. I want to make sure that we're getting to answer questions that are being submitted in the chat. So if we're having those questions come in, then I'm asking my Beatstars people, Dev and Mike, for help with that. But to close before that, the music business, we can all agree, is a pretty complex landscape. It's not as simple as making music. We have contracts, we have entertainment law, we have publishing, we have all kinds of different, pretty advanced topics. And the thing about it is anyone can get into it. It's not as though you need a degree. It's not as though you need some kind of special training to jump into the music business. But because of that, there are a lot of misunderstandings. There's a lot of misinformation. How do you think as a community we move towards a point where everyone has access to education, everyone has access to resources to better learn how to navigate the business side of the music business?
Well, I think there's so much good information out there at the moment. I think people such as yourself, and a number of other content creators do a really good job of putting as much valuable information out there onto the net as possible. So I would say the first step is just basically just Google and see what you can come up with. And then if things are really complex and we're talking about big deals and we're talking about, major labels and potentially a lot of money, then just get an entertainment lawyer off the bat, in my opinion. But for sort of basic stuff, at ground level, I would try to be as educated as you can and Google as much. There's a bunch of books on Amazon now that, really break down things like publishing from front to back. And, when it comes to publishing and things like that, knowledge is power, especially for independent artists. So I would really try to educate yourself as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree. A standard book that I just feel like is a go-to is how I started in music is Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business by, I think it's Donald S. Pascal.
Yeah, I read that one too. It's great. Yeah,
that's like a good starting point. And then I think another good way to start is to kind of just throw yourself into it, like, intern, get a job at like a studio, or if you're in a place where there are labels and stuff like that you could spend some time in if you're lucky enough to get a job. I think sometimes just being around people who are already working in the industry can educate you really, really quickly because you can learn from their experiences. I definitely learned everything I needed to know about publishing once I started doing a lot more sessions and talking to songwriters and producers who have been in deals and been signed and have been screwed over. It let me know what to ask and what to look for when it finally came down to me getting offered those type of situations. So I think investing in yourself, getting books, free content, like I believe Songtrust, even Beatstars has video content now that you could just spend the day, now that we're stuck in quarantine, watching and reading. So yeah, and experience. So investing in yourself in experience, life experience.